Hey everyone, and welcome back to Exposed Scandalous Files of the Elite. I am your host, Jim Chapman, and this is a special drop. I want you to note that tomorrow's scheduled drop will drop as usual at midnight tonight. So as you may know by this point, there is news out of Pennsylvania, Butler, Pennsylvania to be specific, where former President Donald Trump has been the victim of an attempted assassination. He was grazed, but he is safe. He is well. An audience member was killed in this shooting, and two others, as of this recording, are in critical condition. I'm going to warn you before I get into this podcast today, it may be a little rougher than what you're used to hearing from me. A lot of what I'm going to say today is absolutely unscripted, absolutely off the cuff, absolutely from the heart. I'm going to stick to facts today. I'm going to stick to what I know, but I will opine on a few things that do not seem right to me. So as I said, this rally took place yesterday in Butler, Pennsylvania. It was supposed to be Trump's last campaign stop before the Republican National Convention. It was a packed crowd, tens of thousands of people, and this was a swing state, right? Pennsylvania always plays a part in the presidential election, and he was set to deliver an unbelievable speech. He was then going to take a trip to Milwaukee to officially receive that GOP nomination from the Republican Party. Okay, so I'm going to take you to 1 p.m. and doors to that rally site opened. I want to tell you a little bit about that rally site. It was rural. It was actually a fairgrounds. It is actually a fairgrounds in Butler, Pennsylvania. It's surrounded by buildings, industrial buildings, most of them with metal roofs, things like that. That's going to play a key role into what I'm about to tell you today. In those fairgrounds in Butler, Pennsylvania, they served as a community gathering place for many, many years, since the 1940s, mostly for farm shows and things like that. And when they would have state fair type events, they served as a fairground. Trump was actually scheduled to speak at 5 p.m., but he was late. He did not actually hit the stage until 6 p.m. No word as to why. But hey, tens of thousands of Trump supporters, they didn't mind. 90-degree heat, no problem. They were there to hear Trump speak. And when he got up there, he got up there. At 6:03 p.m., Trump arrives and takes the stage to God Bless the USA, the song by Lee Greenwood. This is typical for his rallies. He spends a couple of minutes amping up the crowd as only Donald Trump can do, shaking hands, that kind of thing. He has on a white shirt, a navy blue suit jacket, no tie, and his famous MAGA hat. Low to his brow because the sun was shining. It was hot. It was 90 plus degrees out there. At 6:05 p.m., he started his speech, and at 6:10 p.m., he pivots to his right and he starts describing a chart showing immigration statistics on a big screen. At 6:12 p.m., I'm going to play you a clip right now. This is what was heard, and this was the scene as it took place.
Something that said, take a look at what happened.
Move to spare. Hold. When you're ready. On you.
Ready?
Move.
Up.
Move. Go.
Hawkeye's here.
Hawkeye's here. Move to spare.
Spare, get ready. Spare, get ready.
We ready?
Shoot it down.
Are we good?
Shoot it down.
Shoot Shoulders down. Are we good to move?
We're clear.
Let's move. Let's move.
We're clear.
Come on.
Let me get my shoes.
I got you, sir. I got you, sir.
Let me get my shoes, sir.
Hold that in your head. It's bloody.
So we got to move to the bus. Let me get my shoes.
Okay, let's do it down. Get the shield.
Watch out.
Wait.
So by now you've seen that clip. I know you just heard that clip as well. Sometimes when you're listening and there's not a visual in front of you, you'll pick up on sounds and things like that you may not have picked up on when you've seen the video. And just to talk to you a little bit about what I saw and what I felt. It was an absolute showing of resilience and strength by Donald Trump during that time. And this was under the absolute worst of circumstances. He managed to stop the Secret Service as they were escorting him out of a dangerous scene, saying to them, "Where are my shoes?" And then saying, wait, putting his right fist in the air with blood covering his face because it was very clear he had been hit, and mouthed the words, "Fight, fight," repeatedly, in the crowd breaking out in chants of USA, USA, the American flag being waved in the air above him as that picture that has become so famous now of Trump with blood just streaming down the side of his cheek, his fist in the air, and a beautiful blue sky and that American flag in the background. If that doesn't give you chills, I don't know what would. And look, I don't care about your politics, whether you're Democrat, Republican, Independent. I don't give a fuck. Whatever your opinion is on all of that, if that don't give you chills, you ain't breathing. I am infuriated right now. I'm angry over what has been done to this man. Yeah, he's got character flaws. All of us do, somewhere. What he did after that bullet hit him, he don't know how many assassins are in that crowd. He gets up and he says, "I want to talk to my people." And he looks at that audience and he says, "Fight, fight." Man, that's tough. And I don't like to get ultra Democrat, Republican on this podcast. I really don't. If you're a Democrat and you want to vote Democrat, vote Democrat. If you're a Republican, you want to vote Republican, vote Republican. But regardless of what party you're in, this can't stand. This is not who we are. Is it? So he gets escorted out by Secret Service after that. And I don't know about y'all, but the first thing on my mind was, how in the hell did that just happen? Look, it's been said a lot. They're going to kill him. They're going to kill him. But nobody really thought it was going to happen, did you? Tucker Carlson on his podcast it might have been a week ago, said that's the next option. They're running out of things to do. Now, I want to address something real quick. You know how social media is, and people on the Democratic side of things are panicking right now, big time. They're panicking because this type of thing, unless you are a staunch, I'm so left, I'm going to fall off a cliff lefty, you're going to vote for Trump in this election. This pisses you off. Even if you're a Democrat, this should piss you off right now. Number one, because it's not who we are. But number two, because likely Trump is going to win by Reagan-Mondale numbers. He may get 48 out of 50 states now. So personally, I don't think this was a big Democratic plan. Why do I say that? Well, this is about the worst thing you could have happen if you're a Democrat. Because not only did you fire up Donald Trump's base, you fired up independents. You fired up moderates. You fired up people that weren't going to vote because they weren't going to vote Democrat, but they weren't going to vote Republican because maybe they were more on the DeSantis side of Republicans. But you just tried to assassinate not only the leading candidate for the Republican Party, and within the next few days will be the nomination for the Republican Party, but you also tried to assassinate a former president of the United States. Y'all, that's serious. That's very serious. What if that bullet would have hit one more millimeter over? It'd have blown his head completely off. I'm going to tell you what would have happened. That was an AR-15 rifle in this country would have never been the same. And it would be a civil war, likely. This is my opinion. It's a lot. People, I don't think, are grasping how serious this really was. I want to address some of the things that I'm seeing on social media from people trying to spin this situation a little bit. I've seen comments such as, it was an inside job. If you're one of those people that think that, please do not put that on social media because you absolutely look like a moron. The best sniper on God's green earth cannot put a bullet such as one that is fired from an AR-15 on someone's ear without killing them. There's no one that is that good of a shot. No one, period. It's impossible. It was God's grace that Donald Trump is not dead right now. God's grace. It is absolutely horrific and tragic that a man was killed, a firefighter that I'll tell you about in a little while, and two others injured critically. But make no mistake about it, this was not an inside job. Ridiculous, stupid, period. I'll tell you what I think it was in just a little while, but let's talk about how could this happen. So as you heard in the clip I just played you, the shooter was down and they lifted Trump up, escorted him off of that stage. How did he get up there? That was a total failure, in my opinion, of the Secret Service. And let's talk about this for a second. So the Secret Service did a phenomenal job of protecting the president. Within 1.6 seconds, they were on top of him. And look, shout out to the female in there that has actually worked that security detail for Trump for many years. Her and one other particular agent, they have worked for Trump for many years, kind of like his right-hand security. And she was up in there and she was going to make sure nothing happened to her president, right? Shout out to her. And there were several other female agents surrounding the car when Trump was put into the car. Shout out to those as well. Love to see some badass females in there making it happen. That was awesome. Now, the word on the street is, this is not verified, and actually the Secret Service denies it. But I think that might be where a little conspiracy is coming into play here and a little bit of scandal, because they're denying this at the top level of the Secret Service. And I want to preface this with no one involved and on the ground in this incident was someone that I'm putting blame on in this. But the Secret Service has one job. You protect the president, the former president, and we'll tell you what the difference in that protection is in just a second. And even political candidates, once they are qualified by their party. And that's important in this scenario because Trump had this protection from the Secret Service primarily because he is a past president, not because he's running for president. You don't automatically get Secret Service protection if you're running for president. Just ask Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He was denied and is denied, still does not have Secret Service protection. And he's running for president, and he actually has double digits in the polls. I think he's polling somewhere around 12%. That's pretty good for an independent. No protection. He was denied it. And this is a guy who had an uncle get assassinated and his dad. He's a Kennedy. No protection. Used to be a Democrat. Now he's running as a independent. How does Secret Service protection work when you're a past president? And what is the difference between like Joe Biden right now, who is a sitting president? Really not a whole lot when it comes to the Secret Service. If you're a past president, you have roughly the same detail size. So the same amount of people protecting you as the president. It's the sitting president has some classified things that nobody really knows. But think of it like this. If a sitting president is speaking somewhere, there's probably a plane way up in the sky that no one can see that has all kinds of cool equipment on it that can determine a lot of things going on the ground where he's speaking. Whereas a former president may not have that or does not have that. But the protection detail is very similar. It's similar in the amount of people, etc. One of the things that has been coming out on the street is that this particular Secret Service detail requested more agents for this event and were denied. That gunman getting up on that roof and firing from 130 yards out with an AR-15, which is plenty of range for an AR-15 to be accurate. Shocking. Here's what happens when these events take place. 5 to 7 days out. The Secret Service goes out there, they do an on-site inspection, and it's recommended anything inside of 1,000 feet that is perched. So buildings, right? Roofs, those sorts of things. They are going to put someone there. They're going to put someone on top of that roof. And they call that making the area sterile. But if you got 30 agents working this event, and that's just a number, I don't know how many he had, but if you have 30 agents and you spread them out everywhere you can spread them out, you may not have some areas covered. And it appears that was the case here. But the Secret Service is coming out and they're saying, at the top level, the brass, right? They're saying, oh no, this is bullshit. I don't know if I buy that. This was a major security failure. Major. And a lot of this may not be solved. I mean, it's been 50, 60 years since Kennedy was assassinated, and we still can't agree, many of us, on whether there was someone behind a grassy knoll and whether Oswald performed this alone or whether it was the CIA. Or this will never be answered to everybody's satisfaction. So I'm going to play this clip. And this next clip is a woman, a little fire plug too, older female, that was on the front row of this rally. And she's describing what she saw with Trump and the melee after. And here's that.
Okay, I was in the first row right in front of President Trump. I heard first, boom, boom. I heard 4 boom, boom, booms. Immediately thought fireworks. Somebody's still putting off fireworks. Yeah. Then the Secret Service jumped onto him, pushed him to the ground.
What did he look like when you saw him, when he got up?
So I'm just telling you now, I pushed him to the ground. That's what we saw. And not one of us in the front row either hid down or anything. We all stood up strong to make sure. We wanted to protect him too. We wouldn't move till Trump got up.
What did you see from him?
So then the guys with the guns came, they clear right, clear left. Or they said, lift him. So they lifted him straight up. And Trump said, I got to get my shoes on. So he looked okay to me, but I saw a little bit of blood right here.
On the side of his face?
The right cheek. It was like a teardrop almost. But then when he turned to the right, I could see the blood from the top of the ear to the bottom. Was not gushing.
Just a
but
bit.
it was all the way down.
You're doing okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
You weren't hurt?
No, I thought something happened. But in my mind, I thought when they pushed him, he hit himself on something. you know, almost like a burn, like brush burn or whatever, you know, something. And then he put his hand up real big, like strong, and they walked him down.
Just a fire plug right there. And look, the amazing thing about this that I saw was when all those shots were fired, bullets are flying, right? Some accounts have 7, some accounts have 8 bullets shot from this AR-15. You didn't see anybody running. Heck, there were people behind him. They were almost standing up like they wanted to protect the president, just like that lady said. So as I told you earlier, police did shoot, and it was actually one shot that was fired from what is known as the counter sniper team. And they were perched on a roof situated just kind of catty-cornered to Trump, where he was speaking, maybe 10 feet behind him on a roof of a building. One shot, one kill, and they killed the shooter. And let's talk about that real quick. The Secret Service has 2 teams that are staged at these events that until something like this happens, you really don't know they exist. One of those is a counter sniper team. They're usually they are always perched on a high point like a roof. And all they're doing is they're observing the crowd. They're looking everywhere they can, and they're trying to find a sniper somewhere through these very high powered scopes that they have. And they're communicating with people on the ground. They also have a counter assault team. Now, remember when Trump went down and the Secret Service agents surrounded him, you had, I think it was 3 guys come out, and they all had automatic rifles, and they essentially surrounded the Secret Service gentlemen and women in suits. That is the counter assault team. They are trained to protect not only the president, but the Secret Service that is protecting the president. So they surround those who had Trump tackled. And we'll go back real quick to how did he get on that roof, which is what I've been talking about. And how did nobody see him? This is now common news that it was a 20-year-old white male that was the shooter. This kid is climbing a industrial building and getting on the roof with an AR-15 in broad daylight. Did anybody see him? Yes. Did anybody bring attention to the police that, hey, there's a freaking guy on the roof? Yes. And we got that clip from the individual that reported this to police, and it's right here.
Who was here? You weren't inside the event, nope, but you were just outside. Tell us what you saw.
So we had a party here all day. You can see behind us at the Brinkles Farming Greenhouse here. We had a party, and we all decided, hey, you know, when we hear Trump up there, we're going to walk up through the field, stand by the trees out there under the shade, and watch and listen to the rally. Right? We couldn't see him, but we could hear him. So we walked up, and probably 5 to 7 minutes of Trump speaking. I'm estimating here. I have no idea, you know. But we noticed a guy crawling, bear crawling up the roof of the building beside us, 50 feet away from us. So we're standing there, and, you know, we're pointing at the guy crawling up the roof.
And he had a gun, right?
He had a rifle. We could clearly see him with a rifle. Absolutely. We're pointing at him. The police are down there running around on the ground. We're like, hey, man, there's a guy on the roof with a rifle. And the police were like, huh, what? You know, like they didn't know what was going on. You know, we're like, hey, right here on the roof. We can see him from right here. We see him. You know, he's crawling. And next thing you know, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, why is Trump still speaking? Why have they not pulled him off the stage? I'm standing there pointing at him for, 2 or 3 minutes. Secret Service is looking at us from the top of the barn. I'm pointing at that roof, just standing there like this. And next thing you know, 5 shots ring out.
So there you have it. I have no answer for that, y'all. And that is concerning. I mean, it sounded to me like this man said they just kind of laughed him off. He's pointing at this kid bear crawling on a roof 130 feet from the president. Nothing happens. We were probably a millimeter away and a head turn away from civil war. And whoever he reported this to didn't do a damn thing. That's crazy to me. As these reports were coming out, some of them were disgusting, in my opinion. CNN really stuck in my craw for 45 minutes while they were on the air. And it was completely clear that there were gunshots fired. The headline that CNN had on their website was Secret Service rushes Trump off stage after he falls at rally. After he falls, they knew he was shot. Wolf Blitzer, one of their anchors, once they finally admitted that this man didn't fall, he was shot. And they knew that from the beginning. But once they finally admitted this, Wolf Blitzer comes out and he's very just lackadaisical about it. You know, sometimes this happens and it's always sad when this happens. No, you don't say he fell off the stage. You don't say it's sad, but sometimes it happens. When does it happen? When? When Kennedy was assassinated? When Lincoln was assassinated? Ronald Reagan, when he was shot, that was in 1981. That was decades ago. This doesn't just happen sometimes. That shit pissed me off. If you're going to report it accurately. Tell the people the truth. All of us are human. Come on, CNN, do better. He could have been killed literally within millimeters. When he's talking, if he were facing 12 o'clock, facing right at the audience at the time that shot went off, he would be dead. And this country would never be the same. Never. This is serious. And I'll tell you what, I know some people that were not going to vote. Now, they'll crawl through glass to vote for Trump. This is a big deal. So the shooter is killed. And I'm thinking, how did we get to this point today? What happened recently that may have incited somebody to do this? Personally, from what's come out, I think this was a lone wolf thing. I just don't see this 20-year-old that I've researched as much as I possibly could at this point of being someone anybody would pick to do this, even as a patsy. But what raised emotions this week? Well, one of the things that happened is Biden came out and in a speech he said, and he was referring to Eugene Carroll, and he said, that judge said he raped that woman. And, you know, you can go back and you can read the opinion on that case. She was a partisan judge. And after the jury did not convict Trump of rape, and they did not find that he raped her, the judge, providing an assist, really, for the prosecutor who failed to prove rape, said they must have been talking about rape in an extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary written opinion that she wrote that was completely inappropriate. And Joe Biden, he seized on that because he's desperate, quite frankly. He's desperate because of his own debate performance that absolutely lost him this election, even before the shooting, in my opinion. And the rhetoric is all he had. He said, and I quote, he's a rapist, put a bullseye on him. He's dangerous in word, deed, and action. He puts self over country. He loathes the law we live by. How dare him? How dare they? He's dangerous? Yeah, he's dangerous. You're dangerous. Do you know the reach you have, Joe Biden? You have to be responsible in your words, because part of me thinks this is just some idiot, fucking impressionable kid who is a total dumbass that bought everything Biden said, hook, line, and sinker, and said, I'll go be the hero. Yeah, there's stupid ass 20-year-olds out there that would do that. And when I get to identifying this fool, I'm going to say his name one time, because he will not become words that come out of my mouth more than once on this show. And I have to say it once so I can identify this asshole. But from then on, he will be referred to as asshole. And they act on their own, and they're lone wolves. And everything I'm seeing so far indicates that to me. You know, do I think Hillary Clinton went and talked to this kid, or somebody from the Democratic side talked to this kid, put him up to it? No, not this kid. Number one, anybody that would have do this, that person's not missing. That's number one. I guarantee you they'd be trained to shoot. And it's hard to miss. It's hard to miss with an AR-15 from 130 yards. That's a big bullet. So I guess let's talk about this shooter, who he was, what we know about him so far. I'm going to say his name one time. His name was Thomas Matthew Crooks. He was a 20-year-old kitchen worker. And as I told you, he was shot dead on the scene by a Secret Service sniper. He had not been carrying ID, so the way that investigators were able to identify this asshole was to use DNA, and they were able to identify him from DNA and some other techniques, which I'm not 100% familiar with exactly at this point, because if you don't have if someone's never turned in their DNA to you, okay, they're not in the database. Even if you have their DNA, you can't match it unless they already have DNA on record. So for some reason, this kid did. He was from Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. That's about 43 miles from where the assassination attempt took place. He graduated in 2022 from Bethel Park High School. This was a freaking kid. He worked in a local nursing home kitchen that was just a short drive from his home, so he didn't even work in the area. And he was a registered Republican, according to state records. That is a lot of contention right now. Boy, Democrats are jumping on that. It's one of your own. Look, one of your own shot at you. Not so fast. First of all, he donated money to a liberal campaign group known as Act Blue in 2021. So it's my suspicion he was a rhino, a Republican in name only. He was a fake Republican. He was wearing a T-shirt from Demolition Ranch, which is a large YouTube channel, has millions of subscribers, and they're known for guns and demolition content. The AR-15 that he used was registered to his father. Of course, that is neither here nor there. That doesn't mean that his father was complicit or had any knowledge of this. He could have just walked in his dad's gun closet and took out his AR-15. The weapon was bought at least 6 months ago, according to the Secret Service. They also found explosive device material in his vehicle that was parked in a neighborhood outside of where Trump was speaking. Actually had some very cognizant residents of that neighborhood. They knew that van did not belong there and actually called police, and come to find out they had IEDs, improvised explosive devices, inside that vehicle. They also found material to make explosive devices in his home, in his bedroom. A lot of people have asked what his motive was. We don't know. Nobody knows yet. This is going to take time. It could take months for investigators to figure out, if they ever figure out, why he did this. Did he leave a manifesto somewhere that they haven't come across? Time will tell. And as I told you, not only did he shoot and injure Donald Trump, he killed another, and two others in the audience were injured. They're in critical condition. And all three of those, the one that was killed along with the two that are in critical condition, are male. So after the gunman was killed, but several hours after the incident, the White House finally had something to say on the matter. And President Joe Biden came out and spoke to reporters at the White House. And here's what that sounded like.
Thanks for coming, folks. I've been thoroughly briefed by all the agencies in the federal government as to the situation. based on what we know now. I have tried to get a hold of Donald. He's with his doctors. Apparently he's doing well. I plan on talking to them shortly, I hope, when I get back to the telephone. Look, there's no place in America for this kind of violence. It's sick. It's sick. It's one of the reasons why we have to unite this country. We cannot allow for this to be happening. We cannot be like this. We cannot condone this. And I want to thank the Secret Service and all the agencies, including the state agencies, that have been engaged in making sure that people and we have more detail to come relative to other people maybe injured in the audience. I don't have all that detail. We'll make that available to you. I may be able to come back a little later tonight, but we'll put out a statement if I'm not able to if it's not convenient for you all. But the bottom line is that the Trump rally was a rally that he should have been able to be conducted peacefully without any problem. But the idea that there's political violence or violence in America like this is just unheard of. It's just not appropriate. And everybody must condemn it. Everybody. I'll keep you informed, and if I'm able to speak to Donald, I'll let you know that as well. So far, it appears he's doing well, number one. Number two, that they're thoroughly investigating what happened to anyone else in the audience. We have some reports, but not final reports. And every agency in the federal government, I'm going back to my phone to speak with the federal agencies that are being put together again to give me an updated briefing. Has anything happened? They learned any more in the last couple hours. So thank you very much, and I hope I get to speak to them tonight, and I'll get back to you if I do. Okay?
Mr. President, do you think this was an assassination attempt?
I don't know enough to. I have an opinion, but I don't have any facts. So I want to make sure we have all the facts before I make any more comments. Thank you.
So that's what he had to say the day of the shooting. And I'm going to tell you now about the hero, in my opinion, that was killed in this incident. And he is a former Pennsylvania fire chief that was killed at that rally. But before I discuss him, I want to play this clip. This was from a gentleman who's an ER doctor that discussed assisting one of these three men that were shot. And it's right here.
I heard the shots. I thought it was firecrackers to begin with. Somebody over there was screaming, he's been shot, he's been shot. So I made my way over. I said, I'm an emergency department physician. Let me help you. The guy had spun around and was jammed between the benches. He had a headshot here. There was lots of blood, and he had brain matter there. Oh, no. And so I got him. There's a helicopter coming in to get him. I got people there really helpful. I got.
Was there only one person shot that you saw?
Then I did CPR, did chest compressions as well as I breathed for him.
One person.
I was the only one
you
who
guys,
did it.
we need to evacuate everybody.
So that ER doctor did not mention which of those three men he was actually working on and providing chest compressions for, etc. But the former Pennsylvania fire chief, Corey Comperatore, who was 50, was killed. He was described as a hero who had so much life left to experience. That from his sister. Corey was a former fire chief of the Buffalo Township Volunteer Fire Department. He was a hero that shielded his daughters. His wife and the girls just lived through the unthinkable and unimaginable. That from his sister, Dawn. My baby brother just turned 50 and had so much life left to experience. Hatred has no limits and love has no bounds. Pray for my sister-in-law, nieces, my mother, sister, me, and his nieces and nephews, as this feels like a terrible nightmare, but we know it is our painful reality. His wife and daughter described the scene at the rally, stating that Corey quickly moved to shield his family when the shots began. He shielded my body from the bullet that came at us. He loved his family. He truly loved us enough to take a real bullet for us. That from Allison, his daughter, in a Facebook post. His wife, Helen, added on Facebook, "What my precious girls had to witness is unforgivable." According to his LinkedIn profile, he worked as a project and tooling engineer at JSP, a plastics manufacturing firm in Butler, Pennsylvania, which is the rooftop in which that shooter was perched when he was killed. Very strange. Some statements were also released from several different people, families of former presidents, etc. Michael Reagan, the son of late President Ronald Reagan, said the Reagan family sends prayers to President Trump and his family, special prayers for Melania as we remember what Nancy was going through in March of 1981. Of course, that's when Reagan was shot. And Ivanka Trump also came out with a statement. She said, "Thank you for your love and prayers for my father and for other victims of today's senseless violence in Butler, Pennsylvania. I'm grateful to the Secret Service and all the other law enforcement officers for their quick and decisive actions. I continue to pray for our country. I love you, Dad, today and always." Only as a daughter can write it, right? Elon Musk came out within an hour of this incident. He said, "I fully endorse President Trump and hope for his rapid recovery." Y'all, that is huge. Elon Musk has said many times he will not endorse for this election, and he came out and endorsed Trump right after this incident. He tweeted right behind it, "Last time America had a candidate this tough, it was Theodore Roosevelt." And let's get to Melania Trump, who wrote kind of like an open letter to fellow Americans. And she says, "I'm thinking of you now, my fellow Americans. We have been through a unique union. America, the fabric of our gentle nation, is tattered. But our courage and common sense must ascend and bring us back together as one. While I watched that violent bullet strike my husband, Donald, I realized my life and Barron's life were on the brink of a devastating change. I am grateful to the brave secret security agents and law enforcement officials who risked their own lives to protect my husband. And to the families of the innocent victims who are now suffering from this heinous act, I humbly offer my sincerest sympathy. Your need to summon your inner strength for such a terrible reason saddens me. A monster who recognized my husband as an inhuman political machine attempted to wring out Donald's passion, his laughter, ingenuity, love of music, and inspiration. The core facets of my husband's life, his human side, were buried below the political machine. Donald, the generous and caring man who I have been with through the best of times and the worst of times. Let us not forget that differing opinions, policy, political games are inferior to love. Our personal, structural, and life commitment until death is at serious risk. Political concepts are simple when compared to us, human beings. We are all human, and fundamentally, instinctively, we want to help each other. American politics are only one vehicle that can uplift our communities. Love, compassion, kindness, and empathy are necessities. And let us remember that when the time comes to look beyond the left and the right, beyond the red and the blue, we all come from families with the passion to fight for a better life together while we are here in this earthly realm. Dawn is here again. Let us unite now. This morning, ascend above the hate, the vitriol, and the simple-minded ideas that ignite violence. We all want a world where respect is paramount, family is first, and love transcends. We can realize this world again. Each of us must demand it to get it back. We must insist that respect fills the cornerstone of our relationships again. I'm thinking of you, my fellow Americans. The wind of change has arrived. For those of you who cry in support, I thank you. I commend those of you who have reached out beyond the political divide. Thank you for remembering that every single politician is a man or a woman with a loving family. And folks, you can't say it any better than that. These are human beings. These are people. I think sometimes politics gets so divided, you forget that all of us are human. And as Kennedy said, we all breathe the same air and we're all mortal. So to sum this up today, At this point, I do see a major security failure that falls at the hands of the Secret Service brass, the executives at the top, not the ones that were there. Those are heroes. Those people deserve our respect. Those people did their jobs bravely, and I commend them. They're heroes. But the brass at the top let all of us down, including their own employees. There should have been someone on that roof. There should have been someone on every roof within 1,000 yards. This guy was a football field away, a little over a football field, with an AR-15. Easy shot. Easy shot. Donald Trump had God with him. 99.99 times out of 100, he ain't breathing. Thank you, Jesus, because our country would have never been the same. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget, tonight at midnight, regular episode drops. This was just an emergency drop. Till next time, for Exposed, Scandalous Files of the Elite, I'm your host, Jim Chapman. Much love.